Now, hear me out. Rhythm Heaven Groove does a lot at its best in the series and definitely deserves your attention as one of the best Rhythm Heaven games to date. I just don't know if it's my favorite, but it is so close. It's time for me to talk about some of my nitpicks, some of my slight criticisms, but just know that criticism is coming from a place of love for the series. And yeah, don't let any of this commentary dissuade you from checking out or playing Rhythm Heaven Groove. I highly recommend the game. It's fantastic. I've been obsessed with the game, doing everything in the game, all the challenges, going for 100%, which I still do not have. But we have been grinding, okay? There's been so much to do in Rhythm Heaven Group. It's honestly bonkers how much content is stuffed into a $40 game. There is so much to appreciate that did meet my expectations in this game. I think the biggest met expectation for me personally is Sunku returning to the helm and directing this game. This wouldn't be Rhythm Heaven without him, and his DNA and songwriting presence is everywhere in this game. It's truly magical. And I love that the game even credits him as miracle producer. Anyways, I want this video to be just a place for me to talk casually about my feelings for the game, and we're gonna get into the nitpicky stuff. But real quick, Magic Tiles 3 challenged me to their own Rush E challenge. Guys, I'm no stranger to rhythm challenges, and Magic Tiles 3 challenged me to clear Rush E in their game, so let's try it. All right, first try, lock in. Okay, we're in. It's just getting started, of course. Oh yeah. Very simple game. Just tap the notes. That's all you have to do, right? Oh, I have a shield protection. Okay. I better lock it. I'm gonna shut up now. Okay, I'm honestly surprised I even survived that long. That was way better than I expected. Let's see if I can actually complete the song. Okay, definitely with the help of some shields, we actually completed it. Speed up! Oh, nah, you got me messed up with this. Oh my god, no way, dude, that's in the game. Okay, I tried it one more time, and this is my best high score. I got 1 crown out of 3 on the fast mode. If you could perform better than this, I would be very impressed. So share your high scores in the comments and download Magic Tiles 3. Show me how it's done. Let's get back to the video. Where are the endless games? Is it selfish for me to complain that score attack feels like the most aimless mode in the game? Why did they replace endless mode with score attack? And the scores don't really mean anything anymore. If anything, the scores in score attack just reflect your accuracy. So it's like, just try to be accurate, which is already a challenge in every other mode. I just don't understand the idea, other than the fact that they didn't want me specifically to grind world records in the endless games for 6+ hours at a time because I was too powerful. Okay, honestly, endless games aside, it's not as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be, but it is selfishly a big deal to me because I've been waiting for some new endless games, man. Like, I know there's Fire Frenzy at the very tail end of the score attack mode, but even that feels impossible to marathon. You know, I was really hoping for a fun new marathon endless game. And that's coming from, you know, maybe that's like a streamer syndrome of me just wanting some piece of content that I can grind for hours and people will be entertained by. Okay, I'm self-aware, but instead Nintendo gave us Rainbow Perfects and Night Mode, which are just painful without as much fun. What is with the Rainbow Perfects and Night Mode? Nintendo, you could have been just as cost effective by adding a tempo up modifier And it would have been more interesting and more fun than get a perfect medal 3 times in a row. Granted, back to my point of, self-aware streamer, Rainbow Perfects did cause me a lot of entertaining suffering. Honestly, streaming is the only way I would have mentally gotten through those challenges of completion to get the Rainbow Perfects and the night modes. If I was not entertaining people for a stream to do that, I would just put the game down. Like, I would not be doing that or caring at all after just getting my regular perfect medals. It's just like, why would I sit there and just feel so much frustration for missing a perfect on the 3rd attempt and having wasted the past 10 minutes of your life for nothing and then having to start up. It's one of the most frustrating completion requirements I've ever seen in a Rhythm Heaven game. It's ridiculous. And for way more effort, you get way less in return. I mean, there's lots of fun side content in the comic book stuff and, reading all the entries, reading all the text entries, there's lots of heartfelt stuff in there to read. But where's like the endless remix? That was like the best completion unlockable, something that really put all of your skills to the test after you completed everything else in the game. Oh man, I guess we got to talk about the remixes too. Like even Remix 20 as a final challenge felt really underwhelming. I don't know. I know the community also feels a lot of this, especially with the remixes. And this was a concern from the demo that, not every remix was going to be themed. Thankfully, we did get some banger themed remixes in Groove. There's a lot of really good ones. The ones that instantly come to my mind are Remix 5, the superhero remix, Remix 11, the desert remix, and I think it's Remix 15, the cyberpunk remix. Those all have really nicely done reskinned art for all the characters and environments. It's fantastic. And there's a few more than just that. But really, there's just as many bland, kind of basic, forgettable remixes in the flow as well. It just kind of feels like when your favorite artist were to drop a new album, but instead of having like 12 concise, hand-picked songs, the track list is bloated with like 28 songs, or in this case, 80 songs. It's like, that's what Rhythm Heaven Groove does. It really has to fluff out the track list to meet that claim of having 80 solo levels. So like one of my big expectations was to ditch the Megamix format. We didn't want a big epic story. Of course, Nintendo made that clear from the direct reveal. This was not going to have a big epic story. The part I kind of miss though, even from like Megamix's feel, is having like an epic conclusion. Like I was really hoping for a Karate Man Senior hype level of an event to happen in the main solo campaign. It never got there for me. But even with Nintendo's biggest trick up its sleeve, which in my opinion was bringing back Karate Joe, they just kind of drop him in there, man. Like there's no fanfare or anything for him. He's just there. And I get that serves everyone. You're not going to try to convince any new players who haven't played the previous games to want to care about Karate Joe. But to a lot of us, he's the mascot of the series. Like he's the guy. And it just kind of feels like they sidelined him in a way, even though I really do like the new minigame Quick Hands. It's basically a reskin of Karate Man. And if I were to play back and forth with my opinion a bit, a lot of my complaints are comparing to past games. The one thing I will give credit to Nintendo, they do not look back. With all that in mind though, Rhythm Heaven Groove forges its own identity, and I think that's really impressive and admirable that Nintendo isn't banking or depending on past nostalgia or even their old most popular levels to make this game a success. Like you're not going to find Ringside in this game. You're not going to find the greatest hits. You do have a few, like Rhythm Tweezers is probably the biggest throwback in this game, but it's only in the multiplayer mode, and the other games they brought back are like really niche picks that nobody really cared about to begin with, like Lady Cupid. Obviously, it would be nice to have some sort of Rhythm Heaven Ultimate Collection on the Nintendo Switch one day, or the Switch 2 even, to have all those past games, because those past games are still as inaccessible as before, right? So there is that issue, but again, Rhythm Heaven Groove is an all-new game, and that is something to be excited about. All right, I'm gonna pendulum swing back to the bad for a minute, and one of the biggest issues with Rhythm Heaven Groove that I've experienced and have seen others experience is the game's inconsistent input lag or input latency, depending on your TV setup, or maybe if you're a streamer like me, your capture card setup. Now, I know the game does a lot to mitigate this. It even recommends in most cases that you play the game in handheld mode. which is like, is pretty honest. You know, not a lot of game companies are willing to say, hey, you know, our game might mess up your input sometimes. Like, it literally tells you that when you're starting. It's like, hey, we might not always get it right, or you might need to calibrate or recalibrate to get it to feel right. But yeah, this was not a thing in the older games like DS or Wii. You never had these complicated input issues as you do now. And I guess with all of our modern TVs and devices now, things are just more complicated than they used to be. I'm not as tech savvy to be able to explain that or understand. I really do think half the time I'm missing notes in the game, it's just because of a funky calibration, honestly, or it's because of a funky offset where I'm having to mentally press the beat a little earlier than usual. So yeah, I mean, you could say it's also a common just rhythm game woe in general. Like, a lot of rhythm games have input latency issues on TVs and everything. I just wish if they knew these issues were going to be a thing, that they would have given us a little more control over adjusting the offset, you know, changing the audio offset from the video, or like manually changing it. Like, Bits and Bops does a really good job of this by letting you adjust by the millisecond, you know, the offset value. And a lot of good rhythm games will do this, but you know, Nintendo, they just don't like to give you those technical abilities to be able to tweak your game that much or give you that much power. They don't want you to mess up your own experience. They don't trust you to solve this problem yourself. So what do they give us? Well, they do give you the calibration test, which is kind of mysterious, and you might not solve it by doing the calibration test. Here's the thing though. The calibration is fine enough for a majority of the game's content. It's a simple casual rhythm game for the most part. However, and I know we haven't talked about Beat Spell yet, but even when you start Beat Spell, again, Nintendo is telling you, hey, you might get a little bit messed up on this mode if you're not to recalibrate, or you might want to play this in handheld mode, because then the inputs get really busy, and the faster you're having to hit inputs, the more aware you become of the input issues. I mean, you could watch my playthrough of the drum lessons and just feel my frustration when it starts to desync at weird places, almost like the game is trying to calibrate my input delay on the fly in some cases. I don't really understand, but there were times where I would just turn off the game and reset, relaunch it, and it would somewhat fix my problem, or at least in my head it would, especially on the drum lessons. That mode has something wonky going on with it, which is why, again, listen, if you're a Switch Lite owner or you're playing this in handheld mode exclusively, like 50% of the complaining in this video does not apply to you. And that's great. You know, I think Rhythm Heaven is a great handheld game. I don't know, man, but it's just weird, and it can kind of deflate the experience. And I just feel bad for anyone who jumps into Rhythm Heaven Groove and feels excited to play, but then their experience is deflated by these input delay issues and the frustration of trying to get the gameplay synced with their inputs. And you know, it's a rhythm game. You want to feel to the music, and if you're having to compensate in your head, like to hit beats early, it's just less fun that way. You know, thankfully I've been able to mostly overcome it, and like I said, mostly deal with it, but I know there's some stuff, especially in the completion requirements, like otherworldly skill in the drum lessons, that I'm most likely going to have to grind out on handheld mode to even have a chance of getting like an S rank, or what the game wants or expects to get 100% completion. So at that level, it's like, yeah, at that, you just got to play in handheld mode for that. But all right, I'm going to do one more pendulum swing to the positive again, because I do want to leave the video on a happy note, positive note about the game. I love that this has 4-player multiplayer for the first time. I've yet to have the opportunity to try 4-player multiplayer, but whenever I do, I'm sure it will be a ton of fun, and definitely like a unique experience in Rhythm Heaven Groove to just have that party element of hanging out with friends, all getting to enjoy the game together. I was worried about the single Joy-Con use, that it would make you have to use the joystick, but no, you can just use the multiple face buttons at once. That was a really nice touch on Nintendo's part. I was like, man, if you make us use a joystick in a rhythm game, that was going to be unforgivable. Again, I love the soundtrack. The music is amazing in this game. The music carries the soul and DNA of the series for me, and Tsunku and all of the guest artists they had in this game are phenomenal. Beat Spell is an amazing product, and I think they should make a full-fledged Beat Spell sequel as its own game. I think everybody has said this, but I agree. And if you haven't played Beat Spell to the very end, I absolutely recommend it. It's a very heartfelt story, and I love the characters. And yeah, Beat Spell stands on its own. I think initially I thought it was going to be a lot like Patapon, and you can draw that comparison, but this is so much different. It's really exciting. It's an exciting mode to play, especially when you're having to constantly keep the beat of different attacks and memorize different attack patterns and defense patterns. It's a really exciting game to play, and I love the roguelike elements as well. Nintendo kind of popped off with Beat Spell. That is such a creative and new idea to the series, and definitely adds so much value to the game, I think. Of course, I've been ratting on the drum lessons, but I love that the drum lessons returned from the original Rhythm Tengoku. That is such a cool nod just to the series, and I just really love that the series still wants to teach a new generation how to play an instrument. Even when you pass every drum lesson, you can talk to the lounge owner and she'll tell you like, hey, maybe you should just pick up a drum set. Like, the game is encouraging future musicians, and that's just awesome. I guess the only mode I never really touched on is the toy box. That's kind of just a continuation of rhythm toys from all the past games, so that's pretty much just standard as they come. You know, I guess something unique about rhythm toys in this mode are the soundboards. If there was only one complaint I had about the soundboards, is that I wish you could go deeper with them. I wish you could customize the sequence more to be able to place more notes on the same beat, and then you could really get creative with the composing in there. But you can't save any of your creations. You know, they will save when you exit the soundboard, and the next time you turn on the game, your beats will still be there. But if you want to make a new one, you just got to erase, and it's easy enough to, you know, recreate anything. It's just a 4x4 grid, right? It's not meant to be anything more than a toy, which is the whole concept, but I selfishly would like to see that go even deeper, but Nintendo wanted to keep it a little more casual. I'm just saying though, you could spend a lot of time on just the soundboards and find a creative outlet in that. It's fun. It just would have been cool to see them push the compatibility of that just a little deeper. But I guess there's always Cord Gadget. You can get that on your Switch. You could do that. Anyways, guys, those are my rants and rambles about Rhythm Heaven Groove. Just wanted to get these off of my chest and bring the discussion to you on what you think about some of my opinions, and what are you thinking about Rhythm Heaven Groove, having played it now. Let me know what you've been thinking about it, and I would love to hear and read your comments. Stay tuned, because soon I'm going to be streaming a Rhythm Heaven Groove tier list of all the levels. That will be fun. I will be live streaming that whenever it happens, so stay tuned for that. Okay, bye!